The Occupational Safety and Health Administration's Hazard Communications Standard requires chemical manufacturers to evaluate the hazards of the chemicals they produce and prepare labels and safety data sheets to provide hazard information to customers. All employers, such as Sunrise Community and its affiliates, with hazardous chemicals in their workplaces must have labels and safety data sheets for their workers and train them to handle the chemicals appropriately, including label elements and safety data sheets to ensure the safety of the employees and the individuals we serve. Recently, the standard has been revised and there is a mandate for a 16-section format for safety data sheets, formerly known as Material Safety Data Sheets, or MSDS. These new label elements and the safety data sheet requirements will improve workers' understanding of the hazards associated with the chemicals in their workplace. Here's the sample of the new label and the types of information an employee will see on the new labels. There are product identifiers. There are pictograms. There will always be a signal word. There will be hazard statements. And there will be precautionary statements. And you will always find the name, address, and telephone number of the manufacturer, importer, or distributor. Let's look at the first element on a label. The same product identifier must be on both the label and in Section 1 of the Safety Data Sheet. The chemical may be identified by its chemical name, code number, or batch number. A signal word indicates the severity of a hazard and alerts the user to a potential hazard. There are only two signal words. Danger is used for the more severe hazards. Warning is used for the less severe hazards. There will only be one signal word on the label, no matter how many hazards a chemical may have. All pictograms will be in the shape of a square set on their point and will include a black hazard symbol on a white background with a red frame sufficiently wide enough to be clearly visible. OSHA has designated 8 pictograms under this standard for application to a hazard category. The hazard statements are specific to the hazard classification categories, and employees will always see the same statement for the same hazards, no matter what the chemical is or who produces it. All applicable hazard statements must appear on the label. Here's a sample hazard statement. Causes damage to kidneys through prolonged or repeated exposure when absorbed through the skin. Hazard statements may be combined where appropriate to reduce repetition and improve readability. You will also see a precautionary statement. These are phrases that describe recommended measures that should be taken to minimize or prevent adverse effects resulting from the exposure to a hazardous chemical or improper storage or handling. Some examples of precautionary statements are: store separately from flammables and combustibles. Keep containers closed when not in use. Every label is required to have contact information. Will include the name, address, and phone number of the chemical manufacturer, distributor, or importer. How you can use the labels. Employees must use the information on the labels to ensure proper storage of hazardous chemicals. For guidance on the proper use of the chemical, including personal protective equipment, and for safety to quickly locate information on first aid if a chemical exposure occurs. When a chemical has multiple hazards, different pictograms are used to identify the various hazards. When there are similar precautionary statements, The one providing the most protective information will be on the label. Pictograms are designed with a square set on a point, black hazard symbol on a white background, and a red frame sufficiently wide enough to be clearly visible. Let's look at each pictogram. The skull and crossbones pictogram represents the chemical can cause serious harm or even death. The corrosive pictogram indicates that the chemical should never come in contact with any human. Contact can lead to chemical burns or eye damage. These chemicals are able to destroy something progressively, such as an acid. Acids can even be corrosive to metals. Examples of corrosive products include oven cleaner, toilet bowl cleaner, drain cleaner. The exclamation mark pictogram shouts out a warning that the chemical may be an irritant, sensitizer, or be harmful to our health in a variety of ways. Examples of products classified as irritants include degreasers, sanitizers, and general-purpose cleaners. The exploding bomb pictogram is used for chemicals that are explosive, self-reactives, or organic peroxides. Self-reactive chemicals are those that may become more hazardous if placed under conditions such as shock, pressure, temperature, light, or contact with another material. Organic peroxides are highly reactive chemicals. Simply moving or just unscrewing the cap off the bottle that is contaminated with peroxides can lead to an explosion, injury, or death. Read all information carefully and follow all instructions if this pictogram is on the label. The flame pictogram indicates chemicals that can burn. Examples of flammable chemicals are nail polish remover, gasoline, and chemicals that are in aerosol cans such as air fresheners or spray paints. Some chemicals can present serious hazards due to their ability to ignite spontaneously upon contact with air. The proper storage and use of these chemicals is especially important. The flame over circle pictogram classifies materials that are oxidizers. These are substances that enhance the burning of other materials through the release of oxygen. Oxidizers may react with other products to form noxious fumes. An example of an oxidizer is sodium hypochlorite, also known as household bleach. Always store oxidizers away from any flammable solid, liquid, or gas, as well as away from any source of heat, flames, or spark. Do not mix with other products or materials, and always keep containers closed when not in use. This pictogram is a cylinder where there is a gas under pressure, such as oxygen tanks or propane tanks for a barbecue grill. Gas can be ignited easily, burn rapidly, and may explode and/or produce toxic vapors. This pictogram represents a chemical that's severely hazardous to humans, which may damage your lungs, skin, eyes, or mucous membranes. These chemicals may also be known to cause cancer, increase the rate of mutation of cells. It may be a substance that is toxic to human reproduction. It may be a sensitizer that when you breathe in it can damage your lungs or trigger an allergic reaction. It may be a substance that's toxic to a particular organ, and it may be poisonous if drawn into your lungs as you breathe. If you see this pictogram, it indicates that the chemical is poisonous to rivers, streams, or other water in the environment. It would be important to always check for proper disposal of any chemical with this symbol. Appendix D of the Hazard Communications Standard identifies the types of information to be found within the required 16-section format. Sections 1 through 11 and 16 are required. Sections 12 and 15 may be included but are not mandatory. Please refer to your handout for Appendix D of the standard. One of the most important sections of the safety data sheets is Section 8, which contains exposure controls and personal protection. This will provide you guidance in the safe use of the chemical. Precautionary statements will warn you on the exposure limits, such as use in well-ventilated areas, or engineering controls such as avoid getting in your eyes. It will identify ways that you can protect yourself, such as wear gloves. Again, these precautionary statements will be the same on the label as on the safety data sheet. Another section very important is Section 4, which provides first aid measures. It will include a description of the necessary measures to take if there is a chemical exposure by inhalation, skin or eye contact, or ingestion, with the most important symptoms effects, whether acute or delayed. It will indicate if immediate medical attention and special treatment is needed. Section 7 is another important one to remember, which is information on the proper handling and storage of the chemical. Precautions for safe storage and handling, and some of the examples of incompatibilities are: never store bleach or ammonia together because these two chemicals can cause toxic vapors. A barbecue gas grill should never be stored in a hot place or near an open flame. Never store or use a flammable chemical near any devices that create sparks, heat, or flame. All employees must read and follow all safety information on the labels and recognize the 8 required pictograms and the hazards they represent. Employees are responsible to use, handle, and store chemicals appropriately. Some work sites will have safety data sheets. Supervisors are responsible to ensure employees are trained on the chemical labels and safety data sheets and the hazards of the chemicals in the work site. It's important to always report any chemical spill or exposure so that prompt care can be taken. The bottom line is that everyone must do his or her part to ensure the safety of employees and the individuals we serve. This concludes our program on hazard communication, safety labels, pictograms, and safety data sheets.